welcome to Tuesday Tips. My name is Pam Dunwald. I am one of your nurse advocates from Your Nurse Advocates Consulting, and tonight we're going to continue our discussion on that delicate topic of end-of-life cares. And so tonight we're going to touch on legal considerations in end-of-life cares. And so we're going to discuss some of the things that you need to think about in preparing your aging loved ones for their passing, and some of the challenges that you may overcome or need to overcome during this process. So first of all, understanding advance directives. So the important thing is that your aging loved ones have an advance directive prepared. And what does that mean? That means that they need to have their wishes documented in writing. If they are not able to make their healthcare decisions, then we have their wishes in writing as far as if they want life-sustaining measures done, if they do not, and also will name the people that they feel comfortable making their health care decisions when they no longer are able. And one of the biggest misconceptions of advance directives that people have is the fact that they feel when the advance directives are done, their living will and their wishes are stated, they've named the people that they want to act on their behalf when they're no longer available. A lot of people are under the impression that just because their name has been listed on that form, and it is a legal document, that they right away have the authority to make decisions on behalf of their aging loved ones, and they do not. It must be activated. It's a piece of paper with their wishes. You are on there. If you are listed as one of the two people, it's always the person in the first position that makes the decisions. If for some reason that first person is unable, then it could go to the second person. But just because it's in writing and it's done and it's signed and you've been notified that you are, be able to direct their cares when they can't, doesn't mean you have any authority at all unless they have been deemed incompetent. And what does that mean? Either they're in the hospital unconscious, they're not able to make any healthcare decisions on their own, or two doctors have to determine that they are mentally incompetent of making their own decisions, and then they can sign a form, and then at that point, when they're deemed incompetent, then the person in the first position on their advance directives may be able to make their healthcare decisions for them. So this is often an area where people, misunderstand that they don't understand that the advance directive has to be activated in order for it to legally allow that first person to be able to make their healthcare decisions when they no longer can. So it's really important, to talk to your aging loved ones, make sure that they have something in writing. It should be updated, the 5 Ds, death. If there's someone that has been named, like if they have a spouse that was listed in the number 1 position, they pass away, they need to revise that a decade or every 10 years. Diagnosis means maybe they've just had a new diagnosis of cancer or some other terminal illness. Okay, maybe then it's time to update them. Divorce, maybe the aging couple has divorced, so maybe their divorced spouse was listed in the number 1 position and they want to take them off. And then decline. If you maybe already have a current diagnosis or a chronic illness, and then you've experienced a significant decline, maybe it's time you want to update your advance directives at that time. So it's really important to have that. Now, in taking that step a little bit further in deeming someone incompetent, and so Linda is going through really a very trying period of time with her parents. Her mom is on hospice. Her dad is also not well and has some dementia and confusion, and they're not safe in the home. And so trying to get someone deemed incompetent is really not as easy as we think it might be. They had a challenging experience where they did not notice that the house smelled of gas, and they had their daughter and a caregiver were there, and they both smelled it. They did not have any recognition that there was a smell of gas in the home. She is on oxygen. That could have been a disaster. So the fire department was called. The fire department turned off the gas. The gas company came out. They had a faulty stove. The stove is 69 years old, and there was a leak, turned everything off, and now they don't have a stove. For now, the last 24 hours, Linda's mom's been calling everybody that she can to try and have them turn the gas back on, because there's nothing wrong with the stove. There's not a leak. How am I going to make my soup? They have a microwave and they have dishes to use in the microwave oven, but she just can't get past the fact that there's nothing wrong with the stove. And so, for safety purposes, Linda's been trying to facilitate them getting into assisted living or getting her mom into respite. She's on hospice. They won't willingly leave the house. Linda had a conversation with a physician to try and get her deemed incompetent so she could hopefully get her into a safer environment. And the doctor asked her a couple of questions, her name, who the president was, and a few questions. She answered them correctly. So the doctor said that he cannot deem her incompetent, but yet they are now allowed to stay in the home and not have any process, any problem solving skills. Did not even realize that the gas was a problem. And now all she's trying to do is call and find someone to turn the gas on because she needs her stove, and there's nothing wrong with the stove. So we just want to share that, yes, there are these plans there are these processes in place to hopefully try and manage the care of our aging loved ones. But I mean, the system is not as easy to navigate as possible. And that's why we also encourage anyone, if you're stuck or if you're in a challenge with your aging adults, whether it's end of life cares or whether you're dealing with any, dementia or a chronic illness, don't hesitate to reach out to us as advocates to help you problem solve and see what can be done or how to navigate, that healthcare system. One of the things that I want to talk about too is when you have someone with end of life cares, and some people appreciate the services of hospice. Some people are fearful of hospice. And again, I just want to mention that we do have a book out there. It's available on Amazon. It's called Cracking the Hospice Code, Your Nurse Advocates Debunk the Top 10 Misconceptions of Hospice. And hopefully the book is a very easy read. It's in large print, and it's predominantly stories of past clients whose families have been given us permission to be able to share their stories, their journey of hospice care and what they went through. And the other part of the book is just looking at 10 top misconceptions that people have about hospice. Oh, they're just going to give me the morphine. They just want to make me die faster, or they make me, they withhold eating and drink from me. All of these things and all of these fears that maybe you have heard from stories from, friends or family or things like that. We really go into how the body begins to prepare itself for passing. There's a whole process that a body goes through, and the body knows exactly what to do, when that time comes. So we try and answer a lot of those questions. So if, for example, getting back to some of the legal aspects, so if, for example, your loved one has a terminal illness, you're not using hospice, and they're at home and they were to pass away. If hospice was there, hospice nurses in many states can pronounce and quote the time of death when someone would pass at home. It's a phone call to the coroner. The coroner takes all the information from the hospice nurse. The hospice nurse notifies the funeral home. The funeral home comes to pick up your loved one, and it's a very seamless process on your part as part of the family. If you don't have hospice in there or someone passes away at home, it becomes a coroner's case. The body cannot be removed from the home. The coroner has to come, or the coroner has to coordinate with the funeral home, because the coroner has to examine the body, especially if your aging loved one has passed away due to an accident. And so it becomes more complex, and the police are involved. And if you don't have to go through all of that for a loved one to pass, I mean, for me, I would think that'd be a very strong consideration to have, say hospice in there so that you as a family, when you're now mourning the passing of a loved one, that you now don't have to worry about the police coming, the coroner coming, and all this investigation and things, because then it becomes a suspicious death in the home. Versus with hospice, they pre-register with the coroner. We let the coroner knows that, we have these hospice patients out, and the expectation is for them to pass away from their illness. So that takes away that suspicion, so to speak. And so it doesn't become a full coroner's case, even though the coroner has to sign off on the death certificate. It's a much smoother process. And the hospice nurse, the hospice social worker, the hospice staff absorbs a lot of those tasks in dealing with a death in the home. So those are just some of the things also really, to consider as far as that. So if someone, passes away in the home, you really need to know who the funeral home is going to be, and really you need to know this ahead of time. I recently was talking to a funeral director, and the family was unaware of the family's choice of a different funeral home. They thought they knew the funeral home. A trust was in place. This other funeral home already had been paid for their services. The family called the wrong funeral home. They came and they picked up the body one, and then it wasn't until the funeral home that's been paid already found out that this person had passed away. Well, now the wrong funeral home has to get the body to the right funeral home. Who's going to pay for the wrong funeral home who came in the middle of the night to pick up, the loved one that had passed? So that created a lot of tension between the two funeral homes, also created tension with the family. And now they had an extra bill that they didn't need to have, because the wrong funeral home was asked to come and pick up their loved one. So there are a lot of logistics, a lot of legalities, a lot of things that need to be considered with end-of-life cares. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We do a free 30-minute consultation just to hear your story, just to hear what's going on. We guarantee we'll give you at least a couple of action items out of that free consultation if you choose to want to continue to do this on your own, or you would also have the option of considering us for services. So with that being said, I'm sure this probably has raised a lot of questions. Feel free to, drop a comment on the Facebook post here. We'll also be sharing this on YouTube. We'll also share the replay. So I want to thank those of you that have been able to watch live versus those of you that will catch us on the replay. So with that being said, we will see you next week for another Tuesday Tips. Take care, and we'll see you soon.